We got the 7 player props for week 15 that you need to hammer home. My name is Cameron Lawrence, and welcome to Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. We are going to dissect 7 players who are going to get you that coin today during week 15. If you're in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, this is the video for you. Before I jump into it, make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications, and you can find all these player props over on Underdog Fantasy. They're one of our favorite people to work with. But instead of working with them today, we are going to try to get as much coin as we possibly can for them because we got 7 winners here for you. And if you haven't signed up for that, use code FELLAS. They'll give you a Lamar Jackson free square for tonight to help with the multiplier, and they'll give you about to $100 of bonus money. Well, our first guy is Joe Mixon over 25.5 receiving yards. We went through this well last week, worked out perfectly. We're going back again because Mixon has been on an absolute tear for fantasy football and just receiving game in general. He has hit 44-plus receiving yards in all 3 games with Jake Browning. He's hit 25.5 receiving yards in his last 4 and 5 of his last 6 games. This game is in Cincinnati, so to be outside, but there is no rain expected. Nothing crazy supposed to happen. And the best part about this whole thing for Joe Mixon is that he's playing Minnesota, who's been bleeding yards to the running back position in the receiving game. They're giving up over 8 receptions a game, over 8 targets a game, and over 50 receiving yards over the last 4 weeks to the running back position. And a big reason for this is because Minnesota sends the blitz a ton. In fact, more than anyone in the NFL, which is a reason that they've looked so good, a reason that Brian Flores is probably going to get a head coaching job this next year. But they do give up yards to the running back, and now they're playing a team that targets the running back a ton. We love Joe Mixon over 25.5 receiving yards, and I do say we because me and the other 2 fellas helped come up with this list. Also, before I jump into the next guy real quick, if you're on this on Sunday and you're like, I don't want to listen to a whole bunch of Saturday picks, these next 2 are Saturday. After that, we have 4 Sunday picks for you. So skip ahead if you're watching this late on Saturday, early Sunday morning. But the next pick, we're going to stay in the same game. We're going to go with our guy, Uncle Unk, as we call him, TJ Hockenson, over 53 receiving yards. I said the Vikings bleed receiving yards to the running back position. The Bengals bleed. I mean, they're on life support because they're bleeding so many yards to the tight end position, allowing 71 yards per game, 5 more than any other team, 80 yards per game over their last 5. And TJ Hockenson has been above 50 receiving yards every single week since week 2 except for 1. Now I know he needs to get 53. There's been 3 weeks where he's been under that. But the fact he's been at that number every single week is something to hopefully keep you optimistic. The wild card of this game, right? Plus matchup for Hockenson. Great line for Hockenson to hit the higher is going to be Nick Mullins. We saw it with Josh Dobbs. We've seen it with Kirk Cousins. Now can Nick Mullins propel him over this line? Mullins did do it this last week. He got him up to 55 receiving yards. I guess it wasn't all Nick Mullins because, it was a crazy, crappy, unbelievable game. I mean, first of all, can we just take a second back to acknowledge how ridiculous it is that the Raiders put up 0 points last week and then this week dropped 63? It's just crazy. They go from almost getting their own head coach fired because they look so bad to getting another head coach fired because they put up so many points on him. It's ridiculous. It was kind of fun to watch, I'm going to be honest. Both sides for different reasons, but yeah. I won't keep you anymore. We'll get back on the straight and narrow so we can get you with this next pick. A Saturday night pick is Zack Moss under, or lower, as Underdog says. You remember, promo code FELLAS if you haven't signed up. Under 71.5 rush yards. Zack Moss's first 4 games this season, week 2 to week 6, with no Jonathan Taylor or limited Jonathan Taylor play. Moss had 88, 122, 70, and 165. So imagine how excited I am having Zack Moss, keeping him on my team this whole time, when Jonathan Taylor is out, and I know that, hey, Zack Moss is going to be the guy again, and then he goes 51 rushing yards and 28 rushing yards in these last 2 games. The 165 and 51, both against the Texans. Shows you just the difference in efficiency that we've seen from Zack Moss from the beginning of this year to now when he's taken over for Jonathan Taylor again. Pittsburgh's defense, they struggled the first 2 weeks. I don't know if you remember, but Christian McCaffery killed them week 1. The Browns killed them week 2. But since then, Pittsburgh's been pretty good against the run, allowing only 86 rush yards per game and only 3.7 yards per carry. So they've been about middle of the pack rush yard wise, but that's because teams are just running more than on a team like the Bears or something like that. But 3.7 yards carry is 7th best against running backs since week 3. Not a great matchup, not a matchup I love for Zack Moss. So I'm going to take him under 71.5 rushing yards because that line just feels too high for me. Now we transition to our Sunday game. So if you've skipped ahead, we are now at the Sunday block. We are going to start in New England with a gross one. Ezekiel Elliott over 18.5 receiving yards. I know, you might right away. I want nothing to do with the Patriots, Cameron. Why the heck are you telling me to put my coin on the Patriots? Because 18.5 receiving yards is absolutely ridiculous for Ezekiel Elliott. Ramondre on practice all week and is not expected to play. In fact, it sounds like he may be lucky to be back by week 17. This might be a rest of the season injury. In Zeke's 2 games where Ramondre got hurt early and then took over, he saw 72 receiving yards last week and 40 the week before. Ramondre in his games before that saw 14, 42, 11, 51, and 24 receiving yards. He has seen a lot of, how should I put this? I'm looking for the word. Receptions, targets in that time. And you got to also remember Zeke was mixing in with that as well. And Kansas City's given up a modest 30 receiving yards a game to running backs. And there is rain expected in New England, but it's supposed to be later in the day, not till about 7 o'clock. This is a 1 o'clock Eastern game, so rain shouldn't affect it. But if you look at that overall, this team has no one left. I mean, the last game they just won, they had 3 receivers on their roster. I mean, they have to give it to someone. Zeke's going to be that guy. 18.5 just feels so low. That could be 2 receptions. I mean, who knows? With the way this team is, he might need 6 receptions to get there. But let's be honest, would any of us be surprised if he gets 6 receptions in this game? I don't think I would. So we're taking Zeke over 18.5 rush or receiving yards. We're gonna stay at the 1 o'clock games, and we're gonna do a same game one here, one on each side. We're gonna start with Chuba Hubbard over 15.5 rush attempts. You might be thinking, Cameron, you're killing me here. You go Patriots and then Panthers. We're just sticking with terrible teams now we're betting on. A big reason for this is the weather in this one. This game is going to be gross. There's almost tropical storm-like weather heading up the East Coast, and it's going to hit Carolina the Carolinas about game time. It's going to be projected. They're projecting heavy rainfall up to a full inch during the game. 16 mile an hour winds with gusts coming in. Not something you really want your rookie quarterback to be throwing the ball in. If you're Carolina, when he's struggled already over his last, just full season so far, 23 and 25 rush attempts for Chuba Hubbard also give me quite a bit of confidence. I mean, the guy has 48 rush attempts over his last 2 games. And in either game, he has yet to average over 4.2 yards per carry. So it's not like he's out here giving you 7 yards per carry. He is keeping it under 4.2. So they've shown they're just going to continue to run the ball with him. I don't think they're going to stop. The Falcons have been decent against the run, but they've also been good against the pass. And Bryce Young hasn't thrown over 200 passing yards since week 7. So they're not going to rely on the pass in a bad game, in a bad matchup. I think Chuba Hubbard runs the ball a ton again. And so that's why we're going rush attempts instead of trying to figure out the yards. On the other side of that ball, we're sticking with the running back position. We're going Bijan over 63.5 rushing yards. All the same reasons for Chuba Hubbard to run the ball a ton. Right, gross game. Not a great quarterback. Quarterback who just hasn't fully figured it out. Ritter, I think, has had some games where he looks great, but in a game like this with heavy rain, bad wind, they're going to lean on what they know. Hopefully, it is Arthur Smith. So, you never know. But they're going to lean on what they know. And the reason we're taking rush yards instead of attempts for Bijan is Panthers have been terrible against the run all season. They're giving up almost 120 rushing yards a game to the running back position, giving up almost 5 yards per carry. This has been, you look at any 4-game stretch, they're in the bottom 5 worst rush defenses on the season. They're 3rd right now. So we're going to take Bijan over 63.5 rushing yards. And I know it's been a couple gross teams in a row, so we're going to finish up with a good team and maybe the best player, maybe second best player, depending on who you ask in fantasy football, Christian McCaffery, over 88.5 rushing yards. I like Christian McCaffery over every week. I will never bet his under. I never will. It doesn't matter what you put it at because I don't want to bet against this man. But at 80.5, this is one of the highest. This might be the highest rushing total of the week because he plays Arizona, who's given up 130 rush yards per game on the season to the running back position. That doesn't include quarterbacks. At 4.6 yards per carry. In his last matchup against Arizona, he had 106, and he's hit this line in 4 of his last 5 weeks. And the only game he didn't do it against was Tampa Bay. So, who's got a pretty good rush defense? He did it against Philly even. So, I don't see Christian McCaffrey struggling with this line at all. He has just been the king of rush attempts, rush yards, rush touchdowns, everything that you could want, everything that we were like, man, if we just get another season of, just unleashed Christian McCaffrey, well, here it is. I think Christian McCaffrey dominates this game. So 88.5 rushing yards might not even seem close at the end of the day. Well, guys, like I said multiple times, promo code fellas on Underdog. That's where you can find all of these. Let's go take our coin back. Let's go win our entry fees back. Let's make sure that we dominate Week 15, whether we're in the playoffs or not. Like I also said, hit that subscribe button, hit those notifications, because we got a ton of content coming for you. It's not done yet. It doesn't end in the offseason. It'll be a little less than what we got right now, but we're going to have continuous content coming for you leading up to draft time, dynasty content, off-season content, getting back into it. We'll be right back in the swing of it again next year. So hit the subscribe, hit the notifications, go to Underdog, use promo code fellas. But with that, that's all I got for you guys. Deuces. Hope you win your fantasy championship, and let's get that coin.